would like at practice. I think the older guys that have been there before and been in that situation, they understand, but we got too many young guys that don't understand the intensity of how we want, especially Tuesday and Wednesday practices to be. So, I think we had a very business-like approach the last 2 days. I'd like to see us have a little bit more energy, and I'd like for the young guys to understand what it takes on a scout team. But I'm not really probably stating anything that probably isn't expected when you first go to the scout team. I'd like to see the freshmen kind of step it up a little bit, and the guys that are on the scout team for the first time.
You think, James, there's maybe a level of disappointment for some of the kids who didn't make the varsity?
And that's what I'm saying is it's somewhat expected, because you got some of the guys that get it and that's their role. You have other guys that are still pretty disappointed that they think they should be on varsity, and that's fine as well. But we got to get those guys to embrace what their role is right now and make the most of it. And my thing is, I think Jan Johnson's a perfect example. I mean, Jan Johnson was on the scout team, and next thing you know, he's out on the field at Michigan in front of 110,000 as the starting Mike linebacker. So they got to embrace this. There's no better preparation for them to go against the first and second team offense and defense and practice every single day. But I think you're exactly right. That's what I'm saying. It's somewhat expected because it's a transition. All these freshmen came in thinking that they were going to come in and start as true freshmen. That's kind of the story they have in their mind, that they're going to come in and start as true freshmen and be freshman All-Americans. And for some guys it works out like that, and for other guys it doesn't. So there's a transition.
What things have you done to help improve the way you start games on offense?
Yeah, I wouldn't say just on offense. I'd say our whole team. We've been talking about being a four-quarter team, starting fast and finishing strong. I think I've said to you guys before, I think one of the biggest reasons for that last year is we were a young team, and we're not a young team anymore. So that's not a reason anymore. And then I think some other things that we do where we start with team periods right from the beginning, instead of like everybody does, you go part whole, you go individual, you go group, and then you go team. We've done some team stuff right at the beginning of practice, so the guys have to come in and turn it on. And then the other thing is we went and practiced in the stadium a little bit more this summer in this camp than we had in the past, because I think some guys just get in there and they kind of take a minute and they're looking around and kind of get caught up in the environment and aren't ready to go.
What does Amani show you guys?
Yeah, Amani's probably a guy that doesn't get talked enough about. He's a veteran guy. He's been there and he's done that. He's what everybody's looking for at the corner position. He's a guy with tremendous length and size. He really looks like a safety playing corner. About 205 pounds, 6'1". Can be a very physical guy. We think he can actually be even more of a physical guy, but he's just a very experienced, savvy corner that we think is going to play a lot of football for us this year. And is very valuable on special teams as well. So we love Amani. We're glad he's with us, and I think he's going to play a lot of football for us this year and be productive.
How much did his pick six last year play into maybe how to put himself moving into this season?
Yeah, I don't going into this season. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the pick six, I think it's the first game of the year last year, so I don't think that really played a whole lot into our impression of him now.
What's impressed you with John Collins, just from the guy with self-perspective?
I think he's just matured so much kind of off the field. He's like a lot of these young guys that, especially the tight end position, they kind of want to come in and they want to catch footballs and not necessarily do the dirty work and all the things off the field that allows you to be successful. And he's really, the light's kind of gone on for him in the last year through spring ball and now this fall, where he kind of gets it. He's being great with his nutrition. He's being great in the weight room. He had a great off season. He's big and strong and durable enough now to get in there and mix it up in the run game. And then I think we've all seen he's an athletic guy in terms of the passing game, being able to make plays down the field and things like that. I think Mike's been a really good leader for him. I think Ricky Ronnie's done a nice job. And I think the competition overall that we have at that position, those guys know they have to come to work every single day to earn whatever reps they're going to get. So I've been really pleased with him. He's an example of a number of guys that I think is starting to kind of figure out what they're going to have to do to be successful. He's always been talented enough, but now he's kind of figuring out all the things he really needs to do off the field and away, and away from Saturdays that's going to allow him to truly be successful the way he wants to.
Hey James, you said that this was the most consistent summer practice. Does that give you the most confidence that you've ever had heading into a season?
Yeah, I would say, I'd say that I feel confident about this season, and I feel confident about our team and our coaching staff and kind of where we're at for a number of reasons. I think because we had a lot of guys who played a lot of football for us. I think because of their approach in meetings and their approach with practice and their approach kind of off the field. I don't think it's one factor that gives a coach confidence like practice. It's so many other things, and it's how our guys did academically. It's all those things. So yeah, I'm confident. I think the other thing too is this is my first time, really, probably the second time in my total career, and the first time as a head coach being somewhere for more than 3 years. At my last head coaching position, I was there for 3 years, and then I think besides Maryland, I'd never really been anywhere more than than what I am here. So I think that's the other reason why you kind of have confidence, is because we've kind of almost been through a full cycle now. One more year, we've been through a full cycle. So I think kind of everybody understands, the coaches, the players, the staff, understands the expectations, how we work, how we compete, all those things. So it's not just one thing like camp, it's all those things. It's academics, it's camp, it's their approach with everything.
James, is this the most talent you've had as a college coach, whether as a head coach or an assistant? I know that's kind of maybe a tough question.
Yeah,
but
I think that's probably a tough question. I would say it's pretty talented. I know we had some teams at Maryland with Vernon Davis and Sean Merriman, were pretty talented teams. I don't know. I think you could easily make the argument. I would probably say yeah.
James, you mentioned in previous years that you wanted kickers, one guy on each duty, and then you said on Tuesday you wanted Tyler doing both of them. With Alex on scholarship, what do you want to see from him? Is it consistency, strength? I mean, what is it that you want to see out of him that maybe gets him back to that philosophy?
Yes. Consistency, strength, all those things. He's still a redshirt freshman, so he's still young. But yeah, I'd like to be able to get in that situation where you have guys specialize. Now, in Tyler's defense, Tyler doesn't want to specialize. He wants to kick off, and he wants to field goal. He wants to show that he has the ability to do all those things, and we have confidence. But I do think, for us as a staff, when you can have guys specialize and just focus on one thing, then we think they have the best opportunity to maximize that opportunity in that role. The other thing you like about it is now when Tyler does move on, you don't have a kicker that hasn't had any experience. He's done some things and gained some experience. So now when he steps into that other role, it's not his first time playing. So there's kind of both reasons why I think that's important.
Do you think if he gets to that place this season that you would try and use him, or are you pretty set, barring consistency and strength and health and whatnot, that Tyler's going to do both of those?
No, we're not set. We've even toyed with the fact that maybe to take some of it off of Tyler's plate, that you go every other kickoff. That Tyler kicks one off and then Barbier kicks one off, and you kind of do that for a little while until someone kind of takes control of it. But there's been some kind of conversations about that as well. So right now it's Tyler. I'd love to get it where we could get Barbier involved.
James, along the lines of the specialization, you first mentioned about the depth, of course, that doesn't allow you to have more, able bodies to the event of injury. But does that allow you to also allow people beyond the kickers to perhaps specialize? We've heard about Lamont working as stars, maybe some of the other defense ends, pass rush situation, or just any of that changes here with the roster?
No, I think that's a great point. Yeah, I think we got some guys that we're sitting there looking at and saying, he may not be the starter that you guys see on the depth chart that's posted, but he's our starting nickel, and that's a big role in today's day and age and in the way football has kind of evolved. Or like you're saying, I think you could look at Etor and specifically Shaka and say, they may not be ready to be every down players, but could Shaka Tony get up and get in and rush the passer on obvious passing downs? There's no doubt about it. Now, I think that's a little bit more difficult to do with the tempo offenses. Sometimes it's hard to get people in the game. In the old days when you go and huddle up every single time, you could do a little bit more of that. But yeah, I think there's definitely some guys like that we think could factor in. We talked about possibly, using a punt returner, as that's kind of his deal, and that could be a young player. It hasn't necessarily worked its way out like that. But yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. Specializing is a way to get a young guy some reps and gain some experience while you're also creating depth. So yeah, that's something that we're all in favor of.
James, kind of going off of that, how long do you think it takes to learn the identity of the 2017 team versus what your learning process of your team last year? Do you feel like the confidence and consistency that from coming into this year, does that shorten that length, or is
yeah, I would think with us being an older team and now with having our defense and defensive coordinator in position for 2 years and our offensive coordinator being in position for 2 years and now Huff for multiple years going on year 4, I think that helps. I think the fact that a lot of these guys have played a lot of football, I still think we can't just assume that last year's team's identity is going to be this year's team identity. That's not going to happen. But do we have to wait 4 to 5 games to figure that out? I would hope not. I would hope we can figure that out in 2 games, in 1 game, 3 games, somewhere in that range. And then I would also make the argument that we have enough weapons that as the season goes on, your identity could kind of grow and evolve as the season goes on.
James, do you leave the veteran players to the responsibility of just getting the guys mentally ready for the first game, seeing as how you have an older team?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's the older players and the veteran players on their own. It's a combination of the coaching staff and the older players. I would make the argument, and we talk about it all the time with our team, is the most successful organizations, the most successful teams are player driven. That the older players are kind of teaching the young guys what the culture is and how we work and what it means to kind of be a Penn Stater. So I think it's a balance kind of between the two. I don't think we can sit back as coaches and just wait for the players to do it, although they've been very active. I think that one of the things that we talk about all the time is a lot of coaching staffs in a lot of places talk about, well, we don't have enough leadership. Well, it starts with us. Our energy coming out to practice, our attention to detail with the scripts and everything we do. The players are going to kind of feed off of that, and they're going to model those behaviors. So I think it's a combination.
Thanks,
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Thank
James.
you.